Hello, my name is Paula and I go by she, her, and today I'll be asking you some questions. Could you please start with your name and your pronouns?
My name is Jose Bongora and I go by he/him.
I'm about to ask you some questions to identify yourself. We're going to start off with your religion. Would you say you're a religious person?
Growing up, yes, but currently, no.
Okay, what religion would you say you are? You're
Catholic.
considered Catholic? Okay. What about race? What would you say you?
Hispanic.
Hispanic, okay. Would you say you're close with your culture or no?
Fairly close.
Really close, okay. And why would you say that? Do you speak Spanish?
I speak Spanish.
Yes.
Yes.
So you can read it, understand it, and write it?
Yes.
Nice. Would you say you're an introvert or extrovert?
I could be both at times when it's needed.
When it's needed, can you go more in detail in that?
So when I want to get things done, I'm an introvert. And when I need to socialize and network, I extrovert.
Okay. Where did you grow up?
Born and raised in Fort Worth, Texas.
Where specifically in Fort Worth, would you say?
Mainly up north.
Have you been there your entire life? Like in the north side of Fort Worth?
Yes, north side of Fort Worth.
I'm gonna ask about your childhood. Who was your caregiver growing up as a kid?
My mother.
Your mother? Was dad in the picture?
Yes, but he was always working.
Would you say you grew up in a stable household? With both parents?
Yes, both parents.
Yes. What about financially?
I would say we were financially okay.
Stable? Okay. Was there any form of abuse or neglect?
Besides my parents working most of the day, I think it was just neglect.
Neglect? So
Maybe.
were you home alone?
Yeah, so I would be home alone throughout most of the day, all the way up until nighttime, where my dad would come home and my mom would come home.
Okay. Did you have anyone taking care of you while you were home alone?
No, just me and my brothers.
Your brothers?
Yeah, we would all just take care of each other.
How many brothers do you have?
2 other brothers, one older, one younger.
Okay. I'm gonna ask some questions about your teenage years. Would you say you feel supported and understood at home growing up?
I wasn't a very open child, but I think my parents would try. So I'm not sure. I don't know how to answer that.
Would you say when you had something in mind and you told your parents, like, for example, you wanted to play a sport or something, would you say they were supportive?
They would try, but again, they're just always working.
Okay.
To keep the family up.
As a teenager, did you experience any type of trauma?
Yeah, I had surgery once. I had head surgery once for a blood clot I had due to it's unknown specifically what it was, but I remember the day that my head did start hurting, and since then it was never the same.
Can you tell me more about when your head started hurting?
So I was at Hurricane Harbor, and the day went by quick. We went through a couple of slides, and all I remember is by the end of the day, I don't remember which ride it was or if I hit my head or not, but I remember at the end of the day, I couldn't even walk, and my head was just pounding. It was nothing like anyone has ever felt before. You know, I know people go through pain, but it's just it's a specific pain where I could only have my head a certain way or it'll hurt. And it's a day I won't forget because of the pain. And so I think it was caused because of that, but at the same time, I was boxing and I've been doing it for years. But after that day, I couldn't even go for a jog. I ended up recovering, but I couldn't even jog. Any head movement would start making my head, how would you say, it'll beat. Like, it felt like my head was beating.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you're listening to music too loud and it gets annoying, it feels like that maybe times 10, if you could put it in a way.
Did you immediately ask for help when feeling this way?
I did.
You did? Well, what was the result of asking for help?
No one believed me.
No one believed you?
Yeah, I didn't really get much attention on it.
Who did you reach out to?
Everybody.
Everybody? Parents,
My parents, siblings.
What about teachers?
I was there with cousins because I boxed with my cousins, and this was in the summer, so there's no teachers. By the time I recovered, I still wasn't in school yet. It was the summertime, and so I didn't really get to tell any teachers it.
So who eventually took you to the hospital? How did you end up there?
So what had happened was I was going through all this boxing stuff, and I ended up getting, they didn't let me go back into boxing because of, you know, it was every day for like the past 2 months after that day, I would always complain about my head hurting. I couldn't really do much. I couldn't be physical. And so then they decided to pull me out of boxing, which was a good idea looking back at it. But
who decided to pull you out?
my godmother.
Okay.
Which they were the ones that would take care of me and take me to boxing and, you know, be there throughout that career that I had.
Okay, at what age would you say this was around?
This was, I started at 8 and I stopped around 12.
So you say that your godmother was around more often than your parents?
Oh yeah, my godmother took care of me all the time. She was my #1 babysitter.
Okay, did she have any husbands?
Yeah, I grew up with their whole family.
Okay.
Their family.
She had children?
She had three kids, 1 daughter, 2 sons, and I call them my cousins because of how close we are.
Mm-hmm. Were you guys around the same age, would you say?
Yes, so I have one that's a year older than me, and the other ones, they're all a year apart, and so it goes by. I was basically the youngest, and then the next, and the next, and the next.
Was she one of the people you told about your head?
She was, yes, she was there. She was the reason that I got pulled out, because she was worried about me. But I mean, as a kid, I thought I was tough, so I just, after a bit, you just stop asking, and you just kind of suck it up. Because I was getting better, and so I was like, maybe time will tell. And so the only reason I was taken to the hospital was because school had just started. Maybe my first maybe second week into school, I was just walking a regular day, and out of nowhere I started getting this back pain. It wasn't even head pain no more, it was back pain. And by the end of that day, all day I couldn't really sit down. I talked to one teacher, but he didn't really say much. He didn't do much for me, but I kind of just stayed quiet and tried to make it home because I live really close. So I could walk home within 5-6 minutes from the school. And so by the end of the day, I couldn't even walk. I was sitting in my chairs very slanted, just trying to be comfortable because only certain positions will let me feel comfortable without that pain. And so I made it home and I talked to my parents and I told them I can't walk. Like I can't walk no more. And it hurts to sit down, it hurts to lay down. It feels like it's my whole back that's hurting. Like I don't know what happened. I was a regular day at school turned into something really bad.
Would you say what happened once you got that care? Did you have any brain surgery?
So I don't know if it's considered brain surgery, but I spent around 4 to 5 months in the hospital. In the first 2 months, they couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. They thought I was lying about what I had.
So no one was believing you.
No one
not
believed
even
me because not even the doctors, because they couldn't figure out what it was. They were trying to send me home within the first week, but I was telling them I can't walk. It even hurts to lay down. I had to have a pillow on the side to just so I could feel okay, because the pain was really bad.
What type of treatment did the doctors do in order to help you out?
Pain meds. While I was there.
Okay. So the trauma here was everything you went through. What about afterwards?
So what happened was, after those 2 months had passed by, they took a brain MRI scan and they found out, after maybe 30 MRI scans throughout my whole body, they found a cyst that was open, and they traced it all the way back, because it was dripping blood, and it was dripping blood all the way back all the way down to the back of my nerves on my spine. That's when my whole back was hurting, and that's when they decided to do surgery. And I thought it was a dream. The surgery was supposed to be only a 20% chance that I would make it. And so my parents had to sign a lot of paperwork, and everyone around me was there. And I mean, it was a sad time because everyone was just very emotional. I felt scared. I didn't care what would happen to me. I was young. I didn't even know what was going on. I was just hoping to get better. But the people around me were just very, very sad. The feeling around me was just sad the whole time, especially because of my parents. And so after I had woken up, and I thought it was a dream coming right out of surgery. They said surgery took around 18 hours, and so it went well. Supposedly, the surgeon got awarded for that surgery because of how well he did. And I thought it was a dream. I got up, and then everyone got scared because I wasn't supposed to be moving. I got up from my bed as if I woke up from a nightmare, and everyone's like, "Whoa, whoa, 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 lay back down." I just got head surgery, and what they did in surgery was they didn't remove anything. They just cleaned up the blood and patched up the cyst. And that was it. But they did cut into my skull all the way through just to get in, and then they put a hole to leak out the rest of the blood that was in the back of my head, because blood started flowing. It started overfilling, and so it was going to the back of my head, and what was in my back just flushed out. And so I think recovering was the hardest part. They put too much.
So we left off on where your recovery afterwards. Could you tell me more about that, and like how, in what way it was traumatic?
So recovery was definitely the hardest part because of the fact that I couldn't eat for about a month, and that was due to the anesthesia that they gave me. Uh, I'm guessing they gave me too much and it put my stomach to sleep, so it wouldn't digest anything. I would always have acid reflux and either vomit it out. And I was always vomiting it out, no matter what I would eat. We tried all types of foods. We even tried pastries, and the only thing that I can get down in my stomach would be not even gelatin. The first time I had something that went down and didn't come back up was a bowl of cereal, some Cheerios. And so at the hospital, they gave me any food. I could order anything I want. They were treating me really well. But I ended up being put on an IV system because I couldn't eat. And I wasn't doing so well because of that. But besides that, it went pretty smooth. It was just a long process because I had to relearn how to walk. I had to relearn how to eat. Since being immobile for so long, you lose all that coordination because it takes a lot of coordination. It's like when you're a baby. It takes a lot of coordination on how to walk, and I basically had to relearn all that stuff. And so I would be around the hospital doing laps as much as I can. I started off with 1 a day, then I went from 2 to 3 until I was able to walk on my own. And still, it wasn't the best because I got sent home after another 2 months there, like 2.5 months, and I had my grandma taking care of me. And I remember one day she was asleep and I didn't want to wake her up, and I tried walking down the hall by myself, and I almost fall. And I thought after those 2.5 months and being there for like a week, I thought I could keep balance by myself, holding onto the doors and everything. But no, I had an area in my living room where there was nothing to grab onto, and as soon as I let go of the walls, I started stumbling. And I kind of just sat on the couch. I made it to the couch, and I crawled to get some food because I know how dangerous it was if I were to hit my head fresh out of surgery. And so I started to crawl like a toddler, like a baby, around the house whenever I didn't have no help because I was scared of being hurt. Like after surgery, I was doing okay besides, my head feeling heavy. And so I wanted to stay that way. I know if I hit my head at that moment, it would be a very bad case. And so, yeah, that's the full story.
Was your grandma around growing up?
No, my grandma is originally from Mexico, and she comes to visit, honestly, pretty often.
Was she the one taking care of you during your recovery? Or were you still alone? Your parents were still at work?
And so after recovery, my parents were in the hospital the whole time for me, and my dad was the one taking me on walks. And, well, sooner or later, they had to go back to work. And so it ended up being my mom, and then they would take turns. When my mom got out of work, my dad would go into work, and my mom would take care of me. And so when we got home, they both started working, and no one could take care of me. So my grandma volunteered for a couple months. Actually, she ended up getting her visa extended, and she stayed there as long as she could. She would just help me change clothes, give me food, whatever I needed. And yeah, everyone tried their best.
Well, thank you for sharing that story. I know it was pretty hard.
Yeah.
Now I'll be asking you a couple questions about your time as you grew up as a teenager and where you're at now. Could you tell me a little bit about that and how it went? Like, for example, right after high school, what did you do?
Right after high school, so I was always in the field with my father doing electrical work as a young kid. Around not a young kid, maybe 14 all the way to like 16. And then
So you had a job in high school.
I've had multiple jobs in high school, yes.
When did this start? Like around what year?
When I was around, it was my freshman year of high school was my first job, and I've had a job ever since, every year since. And then my sophomore year was with my father. My junior year was with my dad. No, that's wrong. My sophomore year was with my dad, and then my junior year I worked as a waiter or as a host. And then that was when COVID came around, and so that's when I started working with my dad again because he had a lot of work. And then coming right out of high school, I took that same path, the electrical route, because I was already pretty good at it. And so I was getting positions and I had jobs as a young age, good positions. So I just stuck with it.
As a teenager, you mentioned COVID. How did it impact you?
It gave me more time to do what I wanted because the schools were shut down.
What was that?
What do you mean?
Like what was that you wanted to do more?
And so at first there was video games, and then after they loosened up on the COVID, I started going outside more and just honestly wasting time. There was nothing I was really focused on. I was just going through life.
Do you currently have a job?
Yes.
Yes. How long have you been working for the place you work at?
So I work for a union, and it works a little different. As a union member, they give you a lot of work, and then in turn you pay dues. And so I job hop a lot just because of location wise. I want to stay close to home, and so wherever is home is where I would work at.
Was this straight out of high school?
No, I recently became a union member, but I've been working at this job for a week now. It's a new job.
Nice. I'm gonna ask more questions about economic stability now. Could you tell me more about your current employment situation? Is this a full-time job or a part-time job?
It's a full-time job.
Full-time job. Are you comfortable where you're at right now?
I would say yeah.
Would you say you're able to meet basic needs such as food, housing, utilities with the income you're receiving right now?
Yeah.
Yes. Have you experienced difficulty paying for medical care, medications, or any health-related expenses in the past year?
No.
No? Okay. So you have health insurance or no?
Yeah.
You do? Okay. Are there any other situations where you've had to choose between paying for either like food or rent? You would say you're economically stable.
So I currently live with my parents, so I have that freedom right now. But I think if I did live by myself, I would have to choose between needs and wants daily.
Thank you for that. Tell me more about your neighborhood. Could you describe your current neighborhood, your situation with your parents? Is it safe for you?
It's a safe neighborhood. It's one of the better neighborhoods out there.
So you have no concerns about like mold, pests, or other issues around your home?
No, it's a nice community. It's very quiet. No, it's not very problematic at the moment.
Is there any reliable transportation around your neighborhood, would you say?
There's buses, maybe not too convenient, but they're pretty reliable.
Do you have reliable transportation to get to work or school, medical appointments?
Yeah,
You do? What do you say? Is this your own vehicle or your
it's
parents?
my own vehicle.
Your own vehicle? Nice. Um, what year did you graduate high school?
I graduated class of 2021.
Nice. Did you continue school or did you just continue into the workforce?
I continued into trade school, but I didn't finish.
You didn't finish trade
Essentially,
school. What barriers did you have? Like why did you not continue school?
I think I chose the right path, but there wasn't really no barriers. It was just choosing between whether I wanted to spend more time doing homework and schoolwork in turn of making fairly good money, working long hours.
So you're not doing school? Or you are?
No.
No, right. Okay. Are you gonna continue pursuing the career you wanted to, or are you just gonna stick to the work?
I mean, I'm pursuing it right now. So in the career I chose, school is optional. It all depends on if you want to move up forward. You could always school is very helpful on the fact that you have someone to ask questions to, but all the information is online and you don't need school. There's not a diploma that they give you for going to school. You could turn out on a test the same way those school kids do, and so it's not needed, but I think school is very, very good to have.
Tell me more about your job. Is there a chance? Is there a chance where you can continue your career at the union?
Yes, there's a lot of opportunity. There's a lot of bigger companies that work with the union, and they have government facilities and a lot of help from the government. So they get contracts where no regular contractor would get, and so in turn they pay your employees more. And yeah, there's a lot of room for growth. There's not. If you want to grow, you can grow. If you want to stay where you're at, you can stay where you're at.
Would you say you have easy access to food?
Yes, very easy access.
That's good. Is there any local supermarket around your home?
Local, I think the most local thing we got would be either Walmart or a Fiesta.
How far would you say the Walmart Fiesta are?
If you were driving, about 10 to 15 minutes, depending on what time of day.
Would you say you or any other family have ever gone without a meal due to financial reasons?
No, my parents have always put in overtime just to put food on the table. My parents always make sure we got food on the table.
We're gonna shift a little here. Who do you turn to for support when you're feeling stressed or overwhelmed?
Stressed or overwhelmed. I either hang out with my dogs or play video games.
So you don't have someone you talk to when you're stressed or overwhelmed. It's just your dogs.
Yeah.
In the game. Nice. What do you do when you're feeling that way, other than spending time with your dog and playing a video game?
What I do, I kind of just reflect on it and try not to let it get to me. Because at the end of the day, whatever happened has already happened.
Okay. I'm gonna ask you about your community now. Would you say, are you like involved in your community? Any specific organizations or social activities that you do?
No, not quite. Besides where I work at and the people around me, no, not really. I
Okay.
don't attend many events, community events, if you want to say.
Have you ever felt discriminated against or treated unfairly in healthcare or at work or in your community or at school?
At work, but I mean, not my community or school. Everyone seems to be diverse, but I have worked at some places where it wasn't so diverse, and you could just, I don't know how to explain it, but you could just feel.
Did you have a specific situation where someone was being racist to you?
Yeah, so we're just doing our work, and then some guy comes up to us, and we're being as quiet as we can, right? Because we're supposed to be quiet because of the workers that are working, and so they come up to me and this other dude, and he just starts yelling at us as if he was like, if he was he you could tell he thought he was better than us, whether he was or not. Which, and especially in a work environment, you shouldn't be yelling or saying certain things. And so we just kind of ignored the dude because they are the employees of the company we're working for or doing work for, and so we would get in trouble if we would start fighting back. And so, I mean, whatever he was saying doesn't get to me. I know where they come from. What the tone in his voice sounded like it was hate, and so I just ignored it.
So you would say you feel stressed sometimes at work. How would you deal with this?
Stress, not really. I think what I do is fun at times, and if it ever does get stressful, it's only because we're trying to meet a deadline. But at the end of the day, if deadlines can't be met, they could always bring in more people. That's what the union's for. And so it's not my job to stress out, or at least not yet, because I'm not at that position to be stressing over the work.
Valid. How often do you stress or unsafe in your daily life?
I think stress is good for you at a certain point, but right now I'm not very stressful.
What about unsafety? Do you ever feel unsafe throughout the day?
Unsafe, as in,
Do you just feel like you always have to look behind you, around, like your surroundings, always have to be aware?
it just depends on my location. I always like to be aware of what's around me and who's around me, because there's a lot of people and things in this world. And yeah, I mean, if I'm in my house, I won't look back twice. But if I'm out somewhere where there's no lights and it's very dark, I would start looking around a lot more often.
Okay, well, now I'll be asking you questions about your health. Do you have a regular healthcare provider or clinic where you feel comfortable as seeking care?
No, we did have this doctor that I would go to, which was my surgeon. But once I grown up, everything changed. We get different health providers, and then now I have to go wherever my union provider is at. Whatever network they're using, I have to use. So, and they change very often.
Have you ever delayed or avoided seeking medical care because of cost, transportation, or any other barriers?
I always avoid seeking medical treatment, not because of the cost or anything, but mainly because I think the doctors are trying to make money out of you. And so I know I don't like going for anything mild. Anything mild, I think just do some information online, do some research online, and just try to take whatever works. Spend some time resting. But if it's severe, I would definitely seek help, medical help.
Are you up to date with recommended screenings or vaccines?
No vaccines, and not up to date with any screenings.
Can you tell me why?
Um,
Does that go back to the
no,
cause?
I think I'm a pretty healthy person. No, the cost isn't a problem. The insurance I have takes care of all of that. But it's just, sometimes you don't want to find out some things that aren't affecting you,
Okay.
If I feel good, then I think I'll be okay.
How often do you receive enough information about maintaining your health and the lifestyle?
Not often. Whatever I see online is the only education I get, I guess, health-wise.
How would you describe your current health, your physical health?
It's not too bad. I am overeating, but it's not like I'm overeating a lot of sweets. I'm overeating good foods. I'm not overeating chips. I'm not overeating anything very high in sugar. I drink a lot of water. I'm physical. And so, besides the overeating, I think I'm in a decent spot. I don't work out. I used to work out. I worked out for a very long time, and I've been consistent up until now.
Could you tell me more about that? Why did you stop working out?
I just got busy with some things, and it just didn't fit in my schedule anymore. And then when things cleared up, I didn't want to put it in my schedule no more because of the fact that when you start and stop and then try to start again, it gets harder every time.
Would you be willing to go back though, or is this just something that's currently just in pause and then not?
It's just for the moment.
Mm-hmm.
It's for the moment.
Okay. How would you describe your current mental health?
I would like to say I'm doing better than most, just because I don't let things get to me.
Okay. So do you ever feel sad or overwhelmed?
Yeah, I think everyone feels sad and overwhelmed from time to time. If anything, very frequently, but you're not supposed to let those emotions control you. You're supposed to control those emotions and know when to let them out. Of course, you don't just gotta have to have it. Of course, you don't have to keep it all bottled up inside you. Let them out whenever they need to be let out. But at the same time, don't let them take over you. Don't be in bed all day crying over someone who skipped in line and you didn't say nothing, or crying over what you messed up. Thinking about it too much will kill you.
So you don't let yourself feel overwhelmed or get consumed over the overwhelm. So would you say within your mental health, what are some healthy ways you use to cope other than like not letting it get to you?
Reflecting over it. It's always good to reflect over everything you do and just thinking about things until you understand them. And if you don't understand them, then you could always come back to it.
Okay, well, thank you for sharing. We're gonna shift a little bit towards your early memories as a child. When growing up, can you tell me what you wanted to be? What's the first memory you have as a kid that you had a dream?
Honestly, I don't know. As a kid, I think everyone wants to be a superstar.
Superstar.
Whether it's in sports, music, or video games. Just a superstar at something.
Do you remember why you wanted to be that?
I think it's because of the attention.
The attention. So, did you grab this idea of attention and a superstar from school or from someone? Like, where did you get
technology?
This? Technology?
Saying the way people portray their lives on whether it's YouTube, Instagram, it's way different from real life. And as a kid, you see that and that's what you want to be.
What about when you were in high school? Did that change? You didn't want to be a superstar, or did you still want to be a superstar?
Oh yeah, it didn't change. I wanted to be a superstar still, but in a different way. You know, whether it wasn't just sports or music anymore. It was more specific, as in like the electrical thing, or maybe go to school for something and be just good at whatever I did.
So you shifted from superstar to superstar electric.
I never shifted.
Oh, you never shifted.
I
My
never
bad.
shifted.
Okay.
I still want to be a superstar.
Okay. So currently, what do you want to be? If you said, is it still a superstar?
Yeah, I guess an electrical superstar.
Okay. What do you think? Why it shifted from like sports or something to specifically electrical?
As you grow up, you start to become a lot more realistic, and so those just weren't paths that I could take. They weren't really open. There was cracks in the doors, but they wouldn't open more than what they were open.
Could you be more specific in that? What do you mean by it?
And
open?
so, like, I played a lot of basketball from middle school to high school, and I played it daily for hours, especially in the summer. But no matter how good I was, my height would limit whether I was able to make it even to college. Like, I could maybe make it to college, but there was no room for the NBA.
Well, you mentioned growing up, you also played soccer as a little kid, and baseball and football. Could you tell me more about that? Why specifically only basketball?
So after my surgery, I wasn't able to play soccer anymore or do boxing. I think boxing would have been the one thing I would have wanted to be a superstar in, but those doors closed as soon as I got that surgery. So my doctor told me I would never be able to play football, I would never be able to play soccer, I would never be able to box again. And so baseball and basketball were iffy, because it's still physical, you know. You can accidentally get hit in the head by the ball, and it could be drastic, especially when you have a sensitive head. Sensitive bones is what I had because of the cuts they made. And so that's what I mean by there was a crack in the door, but it wouldn't open any more than what it was open.
What would you say, at what point did you shift your mentality to electrical?
Coming out of high school. You know what? Maybe a year after high school, where when I first got out of high school, I worked with my dad just for a little bit, and then that didn't work out. So I joined a company, and the pay wasn't there, you know, just because of my age and how young I was. I could be very good, and they wouldn't pay me more than what I needed, quote unquote. And so after that, you know, I found a good spot with the smaller company, and they paid me really well because they could see what I could do, not just because of my age, but because of what I could do. And so after that, I realized like, oh, okay, not everyone's gonna see me the same. Some people will use you, and some people will use you for the better.
Okay. Would you say you have a goal?
Yeah. Just I think my goal right now is my smaller goals are just to get my license and complete my electrical path.
When you mean license, could you explain more about that?
So you have to work for 4 years on hands-on, and then you could take your journeyman's test, and then after you get your journeyman's, you have to work another 2 years hands-on to be able to take your master's. And then after that, there's nothing else besides, opening up a company, or, you can't really move up back after your master's. It's the final stage. And so those are my smaller goals. But in the long run, I just want to have enough money to take care of my parents, because there's no one really out there that's going to take care of them more than their own kids.
So currently, what would you say you're doing in order to reach these goals?
I am honestly just working up those hours as much as I can to take that test as soon as I can, and applying for the test, studying.
And you do want to get to the masters and eventually maybe open your own business?
Yes, that's a big possibility.
Nice. Do you like what you're currently doing?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. Are there things you don't like about it?
The people.
The people?
There's a lot of older gentlemen that are envious of how young we started. I mean, and then I think just the fact that we're young, and they think because they have higher up positions, so they try to basically belittle us and bully us, I guess the same way they were bullied, which isn't right, you try to make it better. But I mean, again, I don't let it get to me, and it ends up becoming problems because they see it doesn't get to me, and it makes them even more mad, and they're just looking for trouble.
How do you avoid the drama, the tension?
There's no avoiding it. I mean, they have the power to fire me, so at the end of the day, if he wants to fire me, he could fire me.
So what encourages you to continue doing what you're doing?
Just because I know how much you can make out of it, and how the more you know, the easier it gets. And so when you first start off, you become just this labor rat, and as you grow, you start running the people around you and building teams and communicating with everybody, and that's really your job, just to let everyone know what we're doing for that day, for the month, for the project that we're doing, and just keeping everybody busy and not really being very hands-on, just more mentally.
Can you tell me or think of any recent incident or experience where you experience contrasting feelings? For example, just happy and sad, scared and anxiety. For an example, in your job or in a relationship as an adult,
I guess my relationship with my parents. Sometimes I get home and they're in a good mood. Sometimes I get home and they're in a bad mood. And so, I just let them be. I don't know what they've gone through. I talk to them if they want to talk. But, I mean, it rubs off on you sometimes. And so, I mean, that's about it. Whatever rubs off from there.
So would you say sometimes you're in a joyful mood and you walk in and they kill that mood?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Does this happen often or?
Not too often, but there's times where I come in and the dog's made a mess, and he, um, well, my dad cleans up the dog's messes, so whenever he does that, he gets mad, because it just puts you in a bad mood, having to clean up the mess, and so then he gets mad, and then I get home, and he's yelling and blah, 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 and then the energy just starts to rub off on you, and you start to get frustrated, not just with him, but with the dogs as well, because they don't listen, blah, 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 blah. But it passes by quick.
If your boss or any other authority figure asks you to do something which you think is unethical or that you disagree with, do you push back or do you typically go along? For instance, like at work, how you say like the older men, how they treat younger people. Is there any specific situation on how you go back?
It depends on the tone. Most of the time, it's playful, but whenever they're trying to take, when it's unreasonable and they're just trying to show their power, I like to push back, just to show them, hey,
In what way would you push back?
just with words.
With words.
Keep it at words. Try to be clever. Don't say nothing personal. Just be clever with the words and let them know that you're not just there to be told what to do. You're there to learn and trying to grow.
We're gonna shift a little bit here again, and now I'm gonna ask you a couple questions about your social life, for example, or what would you say who lives in your current household?
2 dogs.
Mhm.
Me and my brother, my younger brother, my mom and my dad.
Okay. How do they impact you in your life?
I mean, they keep me busy.
Mhm.
I haven't been paying too much attention to the dogs, but they keep you busy. Whether it's cleaning them up or feeding them, taking them on walks, whatever it is. My dad likes to chat a lot, so he keeps me busy. He keeps me busy in that way. He likes to mentor me on whatever I'm doing in life. And then, my mom needs attention and love, so that keeps me busy with her. And my little brother just needs someone to talk to sometimes, or, he's sitting at the house alone, and so maybe he needs me. I just talk to him from here and there, see what he wants to do for the day, or if he wants to go anywhere, or if he wants to just stay home, or how's his life going,
Who else do you see on a daily or regular basis?
My girlfriend. I see her very often. I want to say, I think a daily basis.
At work, do you see the same people, or is it always different people?
It changes very often. Like I said, I change jobs often.
Mhm.
But even then, we're being sent to different sites with different people doing different things, and so the environment changes very often.
Okay. Who do you consider part of your support system?
My mother.
Your mother. So no friends, not your girlfriend, your mom.
My girlfriend and my mother, but there's just there's a different connection between the both of them.
So mom is main support system.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Tell me a little bit between the relationship of your parents and your siblings?
So right now, my older brother and my mother don't really get along. My dad and him don't get along. He's out the picture right now. But my little brother is what takes up all their attention. My little brother is the main attraction right now because he's young and he's the youngest in the house. He's the only kid, the only one that needs to be taken care of. And so he gets all that attention and time put into him because he's a smart fellow. And so I think it's good for him to have all that.
You mentioned that you had two older siblings. Could you tell me more about your other sibling and the relationship with your parents and the other sibling?
So he is living in Mexico. He was studying to be a doctor, but ended up having 3 kids now. And so he just stayed in that nursing path. So he makes pretty good money in Mexico. But I've never met him in person.
What about your other siblings? Have they met him?
No one has ever met him besides, he's my mom's kid, basically. Okay. My mom's the only one with a relationship with him.
Does your dad get along with him?
Yeah, my dad's never seen or really talked to him.
Okay.
The only one that contacts him is my mom.
Okay.
I say happy birthday here and there, but...
So it's just mainly you interacting with him?
No,
with
not even
your mom?
My mom. It's my mom.
Okay. What about your parents with each other? How's their relationship?
It's good.
It's good?
I would say it's good.
What about your parents and your friends?
My parents like to talk a lot and let their opinions be known about my friends and whoever it is I hang out with. And so I think they just try to look out for me, whether it's good or bad, But my parents always got something to say.
Mm-hmm. What about the relationship between your parent and your girlfriend?
It's the same way. I mean, they don't really tell me much, but they're very supportive. And I think the relationship within me and my girlfriend sparked up the relationship between my mom and my dad.
Could you tell me more about that? In what way?
I think it flared it up. I think they see how young the love is between me and my girlfriend, and they look back and see that young love in themselves again. And so it's I like seeing it because there was a time where they weren't getting along. Like every relationship, I mean, nothing's perfect. And so seeing that and having them, put more time into each other. Because my dad's always been, head over heels for my mom. Whatever my mom says, it's done.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but there wasn't very much romance between that. There was just like, oh, he would do whatever I say. At first it's very romantic, but as 20 years pass on, it becomes regular. And so if you're not surprising her or doing new things, it just becomes regular.
Tell me about the relationship between your parents and the dogs.
So my mom's not a big dog person. She hates dogs, but every time I bring an animal to the house, she loves them. And same with my dad. My dad's very strict on the dogs, especially when there's kids in the house, because we had a pit bull he was very lovely, but he was destructive because he was an outside dog. And when we had my little brother, he made the decision to let him go. And so now we have these 2 dogs, which I brought them home. And I mean, they take care of them. They have no issues. They love the dogs. They love having the company.
Okay, that's good to hear. We're gonna shift a little bit more. Could you tell me what community programs or services do you use? You did mention you're not very involved in the community, but is there anything like any membership you have?
Mm,
For
I
example,
have
like
a Planet Fitness membership.
Planet Fitness membership. Okay. Um, you mentioned your dogs. Do you take your dogs to any local community service?
I do not.
No. Okay.
My dogs aren't the most social dogs. I think they would do good around um I want to say around other people. I don't know how good they would do around children or kids, because children and kids tend to be very touchy. My dogs, they don't like to be touched in certain ways, you know. They're not used to all the touchiness.
How has your family income or work situation has it made your life easier? I mean.
I would like to think so, because of all the time I had without them. You know, that's less parenting, less being told what to do. You know, less being yelled at. But looking back, I think I would rather have that time with my parents than the time alone.
So the hard part was them being absent here. Okay. Any events in the community or society that has impacted you?
No, not really. I mean, we just gotta move on.
Okay. Okay. How do you think the way you grew up impacted you now?
I think it set barriers that weren't supposed to be set, and it made me, I don't know. I think it set me back a bit, especially social wise. It set me back quite a bit, because I was a very social kid, but after that surgery, it just, I had to like reset life with the same people, because I went back to the same school with the same classmates, and it was just a weird feeling. You know, it probably helped me settle in better, but didn't help me open up those new social, whether it was social cues or, you know, that communication that I had to learn, you know.
So, since you did mention the whole social cues and not being able to interact much with others, would you say it limited you or like didn't allow you to pursue your interests or goals?
The only interest it didn't allow me to do was sports. But no, I think I was able to do everything else besides being backtracked on some of my schoolwork.
Okay. Do you find any social or cultural factors helpful?
Can you explain?
For example, within your cultural, is there anything that has helped you, like being bilingual, for example, has it helped you in your job?
Yeah, I guess you could say occasionally there will be coworkers that some people can't communicate with that I can, and so I would become the translator. But in my day-to-day life, not much, unless I'm walking into like a Spanish store, but they have people who speak English, so I don't have to speak Spanish, but I could if I wanted to.
Okay. How has the economy, like housing costs or job opportunities, affected your life?
Not much. that much, honestly. My parents have had that house for a while, so well, I think once you get a house down, you you'll be okay. You don't have to have fancy cars. You don't have to have fancy clothes. Just a nice living situation. And work-wise, as a blue collar, there's just always work.
It's good. Are there any rules or laws that make things better or harder for you and your family?
Yeah. There's my parents are restricted because they come from Mexico and they don't have all the rights that we do. And so my dad has been discriminated work-wise, and my mom has too. And so I think again that just sets them back, having to find a new job, having to work their way back up, start a new career. And I think in some situations it's for the better, because they wouldn't be where they're at right now.
So would you say that inequality or discrimination has any issues within you or in your family personally? You mentioned your dad.
Yeah, so he had got fired from a 15-year job because of some dude discriminating him, calling him like an alien, or him being illegal. And after the company really supported him because he was a good worker. And so, but after some time, they were forced to look into it, and he didn't have his driver's license, and there was just an excuse to get him out of there.
Well, I'm sorry about that. I'm gonna ask a little bit more personal, maybe, for you questions. Could you think about when you were young? How did your caregiver show you that you were safe and cared for?
Just making sure I always had a full belly, and whenever I got sick, get whatever medication I needed, take me to the doctor. I mean, she was never really a big fan of doctors, but I would always have the right, I guess, medication.
So as a kid, you didn't think about money and struggles that your parents had?
No.
Okay. Do you find it easy to trust others now? Can you think of any early experience that might have shaped that you trust or mistrust?
Can you repeat that?
Do you trust others easily or no?
Not really. I've always been untrustful.
Could you tell me why specifically? Any experience you had?
I think growing up as a kid, the people I was around just weren't. There was a lot of bullies, and so you stop being very naive, and you start second guessing everything that's been said. And I mean, I think that's it. You just become more cautious growing up with people who are always trying to do bad things, or trying to be funny, trying to, hurt you in some way.
Okay, I'm gonna ask questions more about like your young adulthood. Could you tell me how it feels for you to build up deep relationships? Do you think you're capable of doing that? Or
Yeah.
do you have trouble?
I can build a relationship, honestly, quite easy if the other person.
A deep relationship?
If the other person is open to it. I'm not very I can communicate to a point where we can start to understand each other more and more as we talk.
Mhm.
And so I think I could.
How many close relationships do you have currently?
Besides my family, just my girlfriend.
Your girlfriend. Okay. Um. When did you start dating?
As in my first time.
Mhm.
Um, Pretty young. I want to say maybe 2 years after my surgery. I had my first girlfriend, and it moved really quick.
Around what age would you say this was?
Maybe 14.
14.
Yeah. She ended up moving in with me, and we lived together for a bit.
At the age 14. Okay.
Her family had a lot of struggles, so she was better off staying at my house.
How long did that last?
About 8 months.
8 months. Okay. How long did the relationship last?
Maybe a year and a half.
How many relationships have you had ever since?
One other one, and it's the one I'm currently in.
So 2 relationships.
Mm-hmm.
So you said you currently live at home. Could you tell me when you think is the best time to leave home?
Whenever I have enough money to purchase my house and still have enough to either buy a car or just, enough to maybe buy 2 houses.
Okay. So you said you have a stable job. When do you think you accomplish that goal?
Once I get my license, I should be able to accomplish that goal.
Okay. When do you think it's the best time to get married?
I don't think there's a time to get married. I think whenever you find that person, it's time.
Okay, so you say you currently have a girlfriend. When do you think you'll ever get there?
Yeah, I think we will.
Okay. When would you say is the best time to have children?
Whenever you could afford them.
Afford them? Okay. Tell me about how you feel about being off the clock. Do you like it better if you're working or not working?
I wouldn't say I like to work, because at the end of the day, I'd rather get paid to not do anything. Sitting in the office, maybe at my house. But sometimes I like the people I'm working with, and it becomes fun instead of work. It's more like an activity.
Mm-hmm.
But at home, unless I really have something to do, it's kind of boring.
So you would prefer to be at work?
I wouldn't prefer to be at work, no, but I think it keeps me a lot more active, being productive.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, thank you. That was all my questions.